Yo, you good? Welcome to another episode of Meet the Writer. I'm Staines, and today, as you know from the title, we'll be interviewing Aze1. So let's dive straight in. How did you get into or learn about doing graffiti?
I got into graffiti when I was 11. My mother used to, when she got the child benefit, she used to take either me or my sister on a Monday, school time, into the city centre to gamble. And we were walking through a subway in town, and for the first time in 1983 I saw graffiti. It was a big character's head by a breakdancing group called Smack 19, and it was amazing. And when I saw it, it was like being punched in the face. It was just like BAM! It hit me and it just stuck here. So my first view of graffiti got me started, for sure.
How did you get the name Aze?
The name A's comes from what we used to do back in the day, a dictionary, looking through words and trying to find symbols that rock your personality. And because I was a naughty boy and also doing other criminal elements, A's, you can see it but you can't touch it. That was like me back then.
How long have you been doing graffiti?
Now 39 years. A long time. A long time.
Have you had other alias or tag name before Aze?
Before A's, yeah, I've had a few. The first one, a name I used to write, wasn't a tag as such, it was just SMIT, Smith, which is just a cut down of my name. And then I went to Demon, and then I went to Craft, C-R-A-F-T, Crafty, because that was my personality. And I got down with the tag A's in around 1987.
How would you describe your style?
My style, there's traditional elements in it, but it's also free because I freestyle all the time. So I would say my style is a free style with traditional elements.
There's always ups and downs in life, but what motivates you to keep doing graffiti?
Life is swings and roundabouts, ups and downs, backwards and forwards. There's no question about motivating me to do graffiti. As my YouTube channel suggests, born writer. I was born to write. It's just who I am. I don't need any motivation. It's just what I do.
Can you tell us at least one of the worst situations you got in while doing graffiti?
You know what? I've had a lot of positive things from graph. I've been worse situations, maybe a few small ones, but not so bad. But yeah, getting chased while painting a train, that's one thing. Getting shook down by the police in Thailand, you know, the corruption. Have the little bits of beef. But in the UK back in the 80s, that's what graffiti was. It was this. It was ego. It was masculinity. So yeah, getting into fights and things. Outside graffiti, I've had a knife in my stomach before. But with graffiti, nothing like that. So nothing too bad, thankfully.
Has graffiti caused any issues in your normal life? Friends and or relationships?
That's a good question. Yes, graffiti has affected my life in many different ways, positively and negatively to some extent. when most people were getting cars and spending their money going out drinking and spending all their money on nice shirts to go out and look dapper. For me, back then, if I wasn't racking paint, buying a plane ticket to go to another country to paint, so my money, time and energy was put somewhere else. Perhaps it did affect my career in my early 20s. It's affected relationships before. However, as I always tell any girlfriend I've had, graffiti was here before you. When you've gone, it's still here. That's my one true love. So yeah, not too many difficulties, but a few.
Do you prefer traditional sketching with pencil and paper or digitally?
Coming up back in the day, graffiti was about paper. Practicing and practicing and practicing on paper. Digital, no, it's made it too easy, it's lazy. Getting into graffiti when there were no computers, you had to learn these skills manually, just like a DJ learned on vinyl. Now, when it moves to digital, anybody can do it. It's a craft that many people learn in an artificial way. There's an old school, there's a new school, but there's a true school, and the true school is the old school.
As it was in the beginning, do you feel graffiti is still about expression nowadays, or just who's using the best colors and styles?
Yeah, it's certainly changed. I think now people can get good really quickly simply because of the tools. There are legal places, there are commissions for people with very little talent who just copy an image of the internet and want to be insta-famous. When I came up, the tools we had were shocking. I mean, they were disgusting, but we learned to use them. That's where the art form was. That was when writers were good. Now, if you have the time, for example, if your family have a relatively decent amount of money, you don't have to worry about that. You can spend all your time painting. You can spend a week on one painting and make it really, really good. In the day when there was no legal spots, when graffiti was illegal in every sense, 20 minutes on a train or on a wall on a night when you can't see with paint that was like water, nothing can replace that lesson. Nothing.
Many joke that graffiti saved them. Do you find some truth in this? Has it helped you?
Of course, because when I was younger, I had a very abusive childhood, and I was already on the way to being a naughty boy. And graffiti was constructive crime instead of destructive crime. So yeah, graffiti and the time and energy I spend doing graffiti kept me away from doing other forms of crime. Of course, I wasn't born a criminal, nobody is. It's just how we evolve and the people we hang around. Luckily, I got down with creative people and channeled my aggression, my anger, into being more productive. So yes, indeed, that did save me.
Are there any positives you see in the scene today?
Positives in the scene today. It's evolving in the sense of people now are starting to earn a living from doing what they love to do. Of course, back in the day, that would be a sellout. But in today's climate, yes, it's creating jobs and it's a market and it's bringing graffiti more into the public's eye in a positive way. It's still saving lives and it's still giving people many hours and hours of pleasure. And anything that makes people feel good is a good thing.
Are there any negatives you see in the scene today?
As for negative things, I think there's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of frauds, fakes now, acting as though they're writers when actually they're street artists. Characters, in my opinion, belong to street art. Part of graffiti, but not all graffiti. In my old school opinion, graffiti is letters. Characters accompany letters. They do not replace letters. That's the struggle graffiti had in the beginning, was getting people to recognize the letters. Referring to a statement by a couple of art students in Bombing, the 1986 TV documentary. In the 20th century or the 21st century, letters will replace the image, but it seems that the art students are trying to replace the letters with the image. That's negative. Also, companies exploit the imagery of graffiti. And although a few companies pay to endorse their products by using the image of graffiti, they're starting to pay artists. People want an image. They don't care about the backstory. Lots of young people today don't know anything about the history of graffiti, and I think that's quite shocking, to be honest. People who like hip-hop go back and learn about the origins of hip-hop. They should do that with graffiti too.
Now, knowing you coming from the foundation era of graffiti to today's era, how do you feel about the differences between the two?
From the past to now. Now, graffiti is commercialized, it's manipulated and used for financial gain. The essence of graffiti, not just the fuck you, but the idea of this kid being nothing and making a name for himself was about pride, almost like honor. And now it's about Instagram fame. You know, I can paint this on a wall live on Instagram and everybody will respect it and give me a thumbs up. No. Graffiti was about you, your crew, about representing who you and your crew are, the company you keep. Now it's like leaves of a tree. It's here today, tomorrow it falls down, it's gone. It's instant.
What's your thoughts on, is graffiti vandalism or an art form?
Graffiti is both. Art is something we create, but when we use that creation to destroy, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Starting out with graffiti, which other writer inspired or influenced you?
In the day, no, we didn't learn graffiti. We taught ourselves graffiti. Because in the UK in 1983, there wasn't much graph around. And if you saw some, you use that as a model. So you build a picture here and you just try to, maybe look at an old cartoon. Cartoons in the 80s were very popular to get characters. As an example, I took a character from, what was the cartoon called? Maybe G-Force. There was a character of this guy with a helmet, like a space helmet. I always thought that was cool. And wizards as well. I suppose that's later when we start to get the New York influence. Characters like wizards and things became popular. But nobody taught us. We didn't have that luxury.
Have you ever encountered other writers at the spot which wanted to start drama?
I've had a few experiences with people who wanted to start something. Example, me and two friends were painting a train and we heard some noise coming further down the line and two guys came and we kind of like hid, and then they got to the train and they stopped and they were looking and pointing at the train, and we jumped out on them with a big piece of wood, and it just happened to be Fister and Call 123. So there was no drama. I've had situations where I've taxed people for paint. I've had situations where somebody tried to tax me but it kind of backfired. Yeah, but never any real bad drama.
Do you belong to any crew or crews?
Over the years, I've belonged to lots of crews. I'll mention a few. From back in my city, WSK, Wild Style Kings. That was quite a good crew. I got down with Easel and Devious from the TDK crew. At the end, we started a crew called Non-Stop. Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Non-Stop. I was invited to be in MUL, Made You Look. I think that was from a guy in Chicago. I was in FNF, Fact Not Fiction, a crew I started by myself, maybe late 80s, DAM, Aerosol Maniacs. I'm in a crew now, JAM. I'll not tell you the name. I'm also in another crew called TWO. That's a crew from Denmark, an old school crew called the Wild Ones. I've been in so many. RS crew, Random Styles. I've been in many crews.
What are your thoughts on crews and what it represents?
Crews, to an old school man, old school writer, crews are like your backbone. They are support. Traditionally, crews were about this guy can do really good backgrounds. This guy does a really good letter style. This guy is really good at characters. You combine and you make things bigger and better. Crews should be people that you can rely on and who build you up as well as you build them up. Today, there are less and less crews because everybody wants that fame for themselves. I don't like this. I like crew. I like people collaborating to make something more.
Starting out with graffiti, which other writer inspired or influenced you?
There was very little influence when I first started because in '83 there wasn't enough communication between cities or countries in relation to graffiti artists. But around 1984, I think, when I first saw Subway Art, I think Lee, I rated Lee from New York. Also Scheme, I think Scheme did some awesome trains. And Dundee, of course, Scene. They were maybe the first guys I looked up to. After that, when I saw Spray Can Art and found Goldie's work, I was just shocked just how good and more advanced he was than a lot of the American guys at that time. The space age thing was something that I grew up watching, Blake 7, Logan's Run, and science fiction things, and he incorporated a lot of this in his work, so that really attracted me. Motu as well. His characters were just beyond most people's abilities at that time.
Is there anything you'd like to say or advise to newer graphers just starting out?
Well, as you can't see just out of frame, there are some images from a few of my students, and I try to teach them, start basic. Don't look at a picture of a wild style and try to do a wild style in the beginning, because you'll never get it. If you want to feel pride and build yourself up, start basic and progress. Rome wasn't built in a day. This extends across anything you try in your life. So you cannot do this overnight. Everything takes time. Learn the history, learn the process. Everything falls into place.
Being one of the 3 members which established the Secret Writer channel on YouTube, which brings artists from all over the world together, seems to have helped a few people positively. How do you feel about that?
Well, before The Secret Writer, I started doing name exchanges. In fact, I've been doing them for years. So The Secret Writer was a progression for me, really. I like to paint with other people and encourage people. because that, one, it helps to push my abilities and it helps to push their abilities. When people work together and contribute on projects, that opens up an audience. I think it's amazing. I think the Secret Writer has just gone far beyond anything that we've really anticipated. Seeing people and hearing people saying that the greatest thing they've done in graffiti is being invited into the Secret Writer. It fills me with pride, and it's some awesome guys. You get to see just how many nice people, how many nice writers there are. It's not just a tag, a real person. And I've met some really nice people through it. So yeah, helping them to improve and get exposure. Yeah, that's wonderful. I love it.
How do you feel about the newer graphers not understanding the struggle?
This is a question that I feel it's the same with anything in life, whether it's DJing, whether it's MCing, whether it's anything really. Young people never really understand what the pioneers had to put in order to give them the position. And of course they're ungrateful. Youth is very ignorant. And for the ones that do look up to the pioneers, I have respect for, because I believe you should respect things. And you should learn the struggles in order to appreciate what you have and those people that have given it to you. I think the first time somebody does a piece or a scribble on a wall and says, yeah, I'm a writer. No. Writing is the practice of something, not the individual use or action of doing something. To write, anybody can write on a piece of paper, but not everybody can take on the entire city. Train lines one day, factory areas another day, residential areas another day. That's something I did for absolute years, out every day, wrecking the city, because that's what graffiti or writing is. So writers who just paint a nice pretty picture but have never been out there putting their mark around, no, I have no time for these people.
What do you see for the future of graffiti and its culture?
The future, I think, is going to be sad, because the true pioneers of this art form are aging and they're dying. Famous artists are dying quite often now. Yeah, I think that's sad. Apart from that, I think graffiti has been eaten up by companies, by people wanting to make money from it. I think the essence of real graffiti, yeah, is changing pretty much forever. That's sad.
Being a graffiti writer, in your opinion, what are your thoughts on street art, graffiti art, murals?
To be a graffiti artist or writer is something very unique. Street art, it's planned, it's coordinated, generally. It's made for the masses. To be honest, graffiti, it's about me. It's about my name, it's about making me bigger or larger than life. It's an ego, you know, it's who you are as a person. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that's the essence of graffiti. Make yourself bigger than everybody else. Make yourself louder than everybody else. Get recognition for who you are. Street artists, all they have to do is paint a question mark. Move on to another wall with a stencil. Question mark. I find no artistic merit in that. Some street art is amazing. Some 3D street artists create amazing works, and so do some muralists, but street art for the stencil, no, I can't say I have a lot of respect for it. I respect that they're putting something on a wall but the methods is it's talentless, to be honest.
We've come to the end of our interview with Aze1, but lastly, is there anyone, group, crew, new graphers, or organization you'd like to shout out or thank?
Okay, first of all, I want to big up my man Staines from Dubai for taking the time to get me to answer these questions, so suggesting it to me. That's awesome, brother. Hanging tight. I want to, of course, say a big yo to Golk and Fussy, Secret Writer Brothers, as well as Rust, Prophets, Subarubus, Normie, and all the other guys that have joined in. Yep. So, send a shout out to my boy Sean, cameraman for today. Send a shout out to Jinx, Lee, my homie Brim, Tats crew, and Lee in Guangdong. And a big shout out to my boy Ken.
Motherfucker.
Nice one.
You're gonna get it all in there.
I can tell when I had spots when I was a kid.
Yeah. Get all his fucking crow feet in there. Alright,
Oh, I hope you're recording.
I am.
Nice. I wonder what that sounds like. Good answer.
Alright. Many joke that graffiti saved them. Do you find some truth in this? How has it helped you?
Just make sure that motherfucker don't make no more noise.
I can answer the next question for you.
Have you heard any funny by doing graffiti? Lots.
Liar.
Trust me. Man, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're just getting square on. When you start to get square on, because it's a wide lens, you start to...
Oh, you're using a wide. We're going to have to do all this again.
You can actually stretch it
Yeah,
down.
get a macro. And then they can paint on the legal wall.
It was...
If you like what we're doing, hit a like and subscribe.